this moment is where love exists. This moment is where love exists. And so a simple question in terms of there's the art and the practice. It's so funny when I hear people say, I'm seeking love. I'm seeking love. It's like, okay, here it is. This is it right now. There's no more than that. First of all, is to recognize there's no more than that. There's no more than that. There's no more than this. This is the fullness of it right here and right now. And so then it's a different question. You have to switch the seeking mind into, oh, how is this love, this moment? I used to joke, if people would bark at me, I would say, oh, how is this an expression of love? And how to track every single activity back to the source of love, to be able to see it as love, to see this moment as love, to say, oh, the fact that I'm sitting here clothed with a lavender scent that my friend brought me, with my stomach full of delicious granola, first of all, that was made in this kitchen, but then all that it took to make that granola inside of this beautiful structure, connected to people who are generous enough to give me their attention. It's infinite. You could go all day just sitting right here about how this moment in this way is the expression of love. And I can tell you that when you start there, it's an enlivening. It's like an empowerment of sorts, where you enliven the love that's within you so that people can recognize love and appear as the love that they are for you. And I think it's the hard. I used to play these really hardcore games in the acid house, and one of them was, all of us would be there, and my teacher, Erin, I don't know if she's my teacher, she's my whatever that thing is. But she would say, we were a gripey bunch. We were a gripey bunch. And really, really gripey. And so she would just say, oh, do you have enough? And we have this game here called Miss Millie and Tilly, where if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. And, invariably we would say no. And then we'd begin to catch on. Oh, you start having enough when you admit that you have enough. And by the way, I was on food stamps at the time, and I was wearing clothes out of her closet. And so it wasn't like my life looked rich and abundant, but she taught me how to start on the ground of sufficiency. And if you go back to that question of emptiness, is this a pen? Is this a dog chew toy? Or is it potential, right? What she was tuning me into is the fact that I get to choose. At any moment, I can say, this is enough. I have enough love. I have enough everything. If I'm breathing, I have enough. And from there, that's where the world begins. There's a whole other world on the other side of that admission. And you don't know it until you know it, is what I can say. I didn't know it until I knew it. And I thought certainly that it would be almost like a Western weakness, in the West, it's kind of, we're striving, we're aiming, that I would be weak if I admitted that this was enough. And that if I said it was enough, I wouldn't get any more. That's the fear. And it actually works in the exact opposite way, because I stepped into relationship with life. And I don't know about you, but I know that feeling of if I'm talking to somebody and I feel like I can't do it right, whatever I do isn't enough, they're never going to be pleased, they're not gratifiable, then it's going to be a lot less likely that I'm going to want to offer them things, or because I'll just keep offering in this black hole, and it'll never be noticed or appreciated or acknowledged. And so it seems wise to go to those who acknowledge, who may have it just as much need, right? We do these food giveaways. It's so astonishing, free food. And it started as a small, very small thing. We would make burritos in the kitchen, freezing cold nights. And we'd make burritos in the kitchen, And then we'd go throughout Harlem and we'd hand the burritos out. And I remember this feeling, whatever, you're going to hear a little grumble from me. But I taught in Northern California for a long time, fairly wealthy people, definitely wealthy by comparison, we'll say. And there was a bit of griping at times. And then I went into Harlem and I was just handing out a burrito. And the amount of love and care, and the most interesting thing was they would say, "Bless you, sister, whatever you need, I hope you have that." And the energetic payback, it was overwhelming. I almost had to stop passing out burritos. It was and I remember this one guy, he was under the East Side subway, and I went to hand it to him and he went, "Nah." And I said, "Oh, okay, whatever. Maybe I took it a little personally, being rejected." And he said, "He needs it." And you could tell that the guy I was offering it to needed it. And I said, "Oh, well, I actually have two. Is it okay if I give him one and give you one?" And just like the beaming that he'd, "Okay, I could do that." But that, so what I'm saying is, you don't have to come from conditional abundance in order to recognize your abundance. And that when you do, I can tell you what happened for me. The next week, I went to that East Side subway, and looked for him because I wanted to give him more, because it was just such an enriching experience. And I think that's sort of how life works. If you start with thank you, first of all, everything's gravy, right? Like right now, my life is so sufficient. Actually, my life's a little bit beyond my, I'm going to have to wash some dishes or something. It's so good. But my life is so sufficient that that there isn't room to seek. The seeking is the suffering. Seeking is the suffering, especially in terms of love. There's that feeling of it's right here, but your arm is like this, reaching for it, and you don't realize you're holding it away as you're reaching. And it's just pull the arm back. And how you pull the arm back is with gratitude for what you have. And then it can begin to flood in. One of the biggest things I saw, especially for women in 30 years of teaching, is how often we're holding it away, with our reaching, and then living in that kind of state of insufficiency. And what it would mean to pull that arm back, and without even realizing, the reason we don't live in a state of sufficient gratitude, while we're cataloging all of the things that we're missing, is because we would have to change. Changing your identity from one who's seeking to one who's having, but not trying to have. You're having it right now. This is it right now. There's no more.